What does it take to get beyond the damage of words? I'm Katrina Collier. Join me each week as I explore what it takes to step into a happier future. My guests are sharing their stories of when they realised that they needed help and what it took to take that first step, so that you leave inspired and maybe even start on your own path to self-love, care, compassion, and of course, happiness. So without further ado, let's hear their stories. Jen Newbill, welcome to Beyond the Damage of Words podcast. I'm so thrilled to talk to you because we met at some random recruitment conference about 6 years ago. And I'll never forget because we did our disc profiles and you were so red. And then I see yoga and sound baths and singing bowls. And I'm like, I need to talk to you. What's been going on? How do we go from a red disc to this?
Yes, fighting the red.
Yeah, I think the red was a mask.
It could have been, for sure. I think we all build these masks in our childhood because they're defense mechanisms to kind of manage what's happening at home or at school or what have you. So, I think I'm a little softer inside than maybe I thought I was.
But you've been on a bit of a healing journey. What's happened though? I mean, this is quite a change, isn't it? Oh, by the way, congratulations on 20 years at Dell.
Oh,
for anybody who thinks that people don't stay a long time at companies anymore.
Yeah,
Amazing.
Exactly. My 20-year anniversary is tomorrow, and I can't believe my transformation has been over this period of time, really, is the last 20 years. So, we were talking a little bit about this before, but about 4 or 5 years ago, I started to experience a lot of physical symptoms. And I think this is really important for people to hear, because when we talk about mind and body, we all know they're all the same, but what does that really look like in our day to day? So lack of sleep, problems either falling asleep, staying asleep, and then being wired but tired, right? True exhaustion to the bones. Kind of like heart palpitations, brain fog, I'm just trying to think, lots of GI, like, let's just be honest, like the trauma sits in the gut, which I thought was very interesting. I thought, I can't eat gluten. I tried every restrictive diet you can imagine, which just made me more anxious. Right. And the wellness
keep pushing,
industry.
Keep pushing.
Yes, exactly. I think the wellness industry.
Funny, Oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just wrote about this because I'm writing the book in a very strange order. And I'm just writing about, strangely, my chiropractic, because mine came out from kinesiology. And actually, it's really fascinating, like what you're saying. So if you suppress anger, you end up with heart disease, which is what my dad ended up with. And then what you're talking about, suppressing the trauma and whatever energy into your gut, mine into, like, structurally. It's fascinating, isn't it?
It's absolutely fascinating. Our body talks to us, and of course, The Body Keeps the Score, which is a very popular book. And I'm glad that it's popular because people are really unpacking and unfolding why they're maybe experiencing certain thoughts or feelings or physical symptoms. What is maybe the root of that, as opposed to, I'm sick, I need to go to the doctor, this is wrong with me.
Here's a tablet.
I went to 3 different sleep doctors. And really, there's nothing wrong with my sleep per se. It was my ability to calm my nervous system and calm my mind in order to fall asleep and stay asleep. I am happy to say, especially the last 2 weeks, I've slept very, very well. I mean, it's been like,
which is amazing because we've had a supermoon.
We've had a supermoon, and it's been extremely hot in Texas. It's been one of the hottest.
You slept through a supermoon. I am so impressed.
I slept through a supermoon. I did, but I practiced yoga under the supermoon and had a sound bath that night before I went to bed. So,
how beautiful.
Yes, it was lovely. There were 60 of us.
Oh my gosh. The energy must have been incredible.
The energy was absolutely phenomenal. And I believe in that, right? That collective consciousness and everybody bringing that energy together. And then afterwards, it's just like a weight's been lifted and everybody kind of trickles home and, does whatever their ritual is. And then hopefully sleeps.
But isn't it funny that, people sort of are like, oh, yeah, no, I don't believe any of that. And it's like, but you go, oh gosh, I haven't heard from Jen for a while. And the next second you're messaging. It's like,
Yeah,
we all have experiences of that all the time, but it's like, oh, we're not connected.
absolutely. We're
Yeah.
all connected, and the world kind of operates
Yeah.
in a way that's not explainable. And I do
No.
believe that more and more with every passing year.
Yep. So when you started going like, okay, I have this problem, my digestive, what was the first step to healing? What did you do that just went, okay, I'm going to address whatever this thing is that I'm trying to ignore by
Yeah.
bottling?
So here's the cosmos speaking to me. So
Yeah.
I went through all the kind of different doctor's appointments, and I won't bore you or your listeners with those details because I think we've all heard it before.
Yeah.
And it's just like spending money. Some of it's out of pocket. The
Of
U.S.
course.
healthcare system is a little broken,
Awful.
and it's just feeling not listened to or frustrated. And even some of the healthcare practitioners were like, I don't know what's going on. This is odd. So
If I
they
wasn't
seemed
listened to, that would
stumped.
trigger my trauma as well. So that
Yeah,
would be
yeah, absolutely. And so
wow.
it just
All
felt
that
like it was
money.
getting worse and worse and worse. So I
Yeah.
was on my computer, which I spent a lot of time, like a lot of people, on my computer, and I got this
You do work for
newsletter.
Dell.
Yes, exactly. I got this newsletter, and in the newsletter, there was a mention of something, and I'm not promoting this program because there's different programs like this, and I
Absolutely.
think they're fantastic. So I'm just going to throw out my healing path,
No,
and
talk
that's
about your story. That's fine.
yes, it's neural rewiring, right?
Okay.
And so this program was called DNRS, which is Dynamic Neural Rewiring System. And there's a
Amazing.
woman out of Canada who
Mhm.
went through a very similar pattern of physical symptoms, emotional symptoms, and she created this program. She did a lot of research. She talked
Mhm.
to friends. She talked to experts. That's the short version. And people could just go to Google and type in DNRS. And it's a big commitment
Yeah.
because you're rewiring your brain. So it will
Yeah.
include first learning about the limbic system
Mhm.
and why do we get stuck in fight, flight, or freeze? Because that's what happens. And you
Absolutely.
have to understand and educate yourself. And then there's a series of things that you do every day to rewire your thoughts, especially
Mhm.
about yourself and your so it's a
Does this
lot of
resonate
visualization.
does this resonate with you? Because I've always explained it as our thought patterns run like a river. So they'll just
Yep,
keep going the same path, and then to actually get them to change is like getting over the riverbank. And what
yep,
did you find that was a similar experience?
100%. And the metaphor that they use is it's like a rutted old dirt road that's been
Yes.
driven over and rained on and then dried up and driven over, and there's these really deep ruts. So when you're
Yeah.
driving on it, your wheels just kind of naturally go in
Mhm.
those ruts. So you have to take a completely different road.
Yeah.
That's an old road. It doesn't work for you anymore. So you have to figure out a different way to get to your destination. And sometimes you're just like, I don't even know, I don't have
Mm-mm.
a map. What am I
Mm-mm.
doing?
And I don't
So
know it, so it's a bit scary. It's like,
it's scary. It's totally scary. You're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I would do these visualizations, Katrina, every day.
yeah,
I would be on
amazing.
vacation. I would look at my husband. I would be like, I'm going to go and do my visualizations.
Mm.
And sometimes that would include meditating before or after, listening to
Mhm.
certain kind of music,
Oh, how
and just
wonderful.
walking through this visualization process that was taught to me in DNRS. I felt at first like, this is crazy. I'm
Oh,
going
you
to be
do?
completely on. Oh, I was like,
Yeah.
this isn't going to work. After about 2 weeks, I was like, I feel a little better, like just
Mhm.
enough to be noticeable. And
2 weeks.
but what's
It's nothing.
interesting is, it took me decades to get where I was.
Yeah.
Took probably 6 to 9 months to really feel not like 100% because what is 100%? What does that mean? But to feel like I can operate and feel confident and feel comfortable in my skin again. So it's a
Oh,
long
that's lovely.
process. It is lovely
Yeah, but
though.
it
Yeah.
isn't. It's like you've had 20 years of thinking the same thoughts and been stunk in the same flight fright
Yeah.
loop.
Yep.
And then you're making, okay, whole new roads. I actually think
Yes.
6 to 9 months after 20 years is nothing
Yeah. And
as
if you
well.
think about
And
it,
it's
it's really more than 20 years because I probably was thinking these thoughts even when I
as a
was
child.
a middle schooler or
Yeah,
a teenager. So, yeah, it's a
absolutely. Oh, I
lifetime.
love that.
Yeah, it's a lifetime of armor and I'm
Yeah,
thinking this way to protect myself. And
yeah,
I saw a clip from Brene Brown that a friend sent me, and I can't quote it because I love her. She's amazing. But she talked about you get to a point, especially in middle age, where the armor, it doesn't fit and it doesn't suit you anymore, and it's
yeah.
harmful. It's hurting you,
Yes.
and you have to take it off and expose yourself and be vulnerable, and it's scary, and
Hmm.
it almost hurts in a way like,
Yeah.
oh, I've got to take this off, but it's so worth it. And now I know what people were talking about around midlife crisis. It's not a crisis.
No,
It's
it's
actually it's an
evolution.
evolution. Oh, jinx. Exactly. Yes.
It's like the
So
butterfly coming out of the chrysalis. It's
yes,
like you've broken out. You're like, "Phew, out we come." It is
absolutely.
like that. I do want to just say something about something you just said a minute ago as well, because I write about this in the book. Anyone that says that they're fully healed is lying, because we have a
Yeah.
wound and we
Yeah.
trigger. So just watch for that, people. If you're looking at any programs, snake oil,
Mhm.
like that, you feel a lot better and you understand when you trigger, because
Mhm.
it's like my core wound is healed, but I have a
Yeah.
scar and I trigger and I still trigger, and it's like, oh, you're triggering. I know I'm triggering because I'm listening.
Mhm.
It's like, so
Absolutely.
that to me is the difference.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Knowing what triggers
amazing.
you, knowing
Yeah.
when you have that response, and sometimes it's physical. So
Yeah.
for me, I've been kind of
Oh, good
studying the
point.
chakras in my yoga training recently. So the solar
Mm.
plexus is
Yeah.
the chakra that's kind of like just below your diaphragm, above your belly button.
Strength.
This is where I physically feel it. And it feels um, the way I described it to a therapist I was seeing at the time. He's since
Mm.
retired. He's lovely and helped me make a
How
lot of
dare he?
breakthroughs. I know. How
When
dare
they
he
retire,
retire? I
I've
know. I
told
was
my
like,
chiropractor he will be treating me when he's 90 and he's shaking. I don't care. He's not allowed to
I don't
retire.
care. You're like, you're not allowed to retire. How dare you retire on me? But he was like, describe it, sit and feel it and
Yeah.
experience it. Don't run away from it. And
Mm.
then he's like, describe it to me. And I was like, it feels like acid. It
Yeah.
feels like toxic.
Yeah.
And that it's like a sour feeling. And some people
Like
feel it in their throat,
tar. Yeah.
right? And we have a chakra at our throat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people feel it in our heart. Our heart will beat really fast. So
Mm.
I really believe in those energy centers
Oh my
and your
God. Yeah.
body talking to you and saying, there's something happening, and
Mm.
pausing, feeling it, and then being observant and not being judgy and just saying, what's going on right now? Like, what do
Mm.
I think is happening? What is this, a part of a pattern? So I got comfortable sitting with these sensations, which
Mm.
don't feel good, and observing. I would actually visualize myself, this is a little corny,
Yeah.
wearing a lab coat and having
Oh, I like it.
a notepad and just saying, maybe I have glasses
Interesting.
on in this visualization, maybe not. And I'm just saying, what is going on here, and not judging the feeling
Yeah.
or the sensation, but just experiencing it and asking myself, what do I think is happening? And that
See,
actually makes a
I
huge
like
difference.
that. You're
Hmm.
obviously a very visual person, so I really love
Yes.
that, because I'm a feeler. So I'm like, how did you feel? How did you create the self-compassion? But actually, by picturing, I'm in a lab coat, got my glasses on, right? I'm just observing.
Yeah.
And that's
I'm
why
in a
you had the
lab.
self-compassion and the
Hmm.
kindness. Because
Yeah.
often we'll go, oh, well, you just shouldn't have a stomach pain, or you shouldn't. And well,
Yes.
you have a stomach pain. So what's it about? Like, yeah, that
Yeah.
kindness to self is hard. It's hard to get to
Hmm.
that point.
And I think also separating the I from the feeling is
Yes.
really important. So I actually found myself doing this just sometime this week. I had a sensation. I can't
Hmm.
remember what it was at the time, but you have a physical sensation. I was like, oh, this is bothering me, as opposed to I have this sensation or I have this pain. It's like, this
Mm,
isn't cooperating right now. I wonder what's happening. I wonder what's going on. That's
I
interesting.
hear you.
Rather
Yeah.
than, I think it was a headache, to be honest. And headaches are another very clear symptom of fight, flight, or
Uh-huh.
freeze, right? I would
Yeah.
get I wake up with a headache, go to bed with a headache. I would drink so much water, nothing would help. I was taking excessive amounts of Advil, which by the way is not good for your stomach. And
No.
now
Oh,
it's like,
thinking about all of that. No wonder you said
mhm,
acid. Oh my God, no wonder you said acid. It would have been the Anvil as well.
exactly, exactly. So
Interesting.
I would say the head is kind of throbbing a little bit right now, as opposed to why do I have a headache? This is so frustrating.
Yeah.
I haven't drank any alcohol. I'm hydrated. I'm taking great care of myself. That's going to put you deeper
Deeper
into
into it.
fight, flight, freeze
Yeah,
than
yeah.
just saying the head is hurting. That's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah. Fascinating. So how did you get into the yoga then and the sound baths and how's that helped? Because that's still part of your healing journey, isn't it?
absolutely. I actually have practiced yoga for probably 25 years,
Oh,
but
okay.
I've had times where I really have spent a lot of time on the mat, and then I've had times where I've separated myself from the mat. And there's probably a pattern that we could sit and kind of tease it out and figure it out. But when I what happened during COVID is I was going to a studio that was
Mm.
it was close proximity to me. It was convenient. I didn't feel a connection. There was one teacher there that I really liked, but I didn't feel an emotional connection to the studio and to the other people
Yeah.
that were there. It didn't feel like community to me. So
Mm.
COVID happened. This place unfortunately closed,
Oh
and
no.
I was kind of going through my recovery. Actually started before COVID. Thank God
Yeah.
it didn't happen in
Yeah.
the middle of COVID.
Hmm.
And so I was playing with all these different modalities. I was like, I need a new studio, and I really want to feel connection, because feeling connection with others is a part of the journey. And
Yeah.
so a friend of mine said, check this place out. They have an outdoor space. And
Mm.
that's kind of the end of the story. I'm a member of the community. That's where I'm doing my yoga teacher training. I know
Yeah.
the owner. I know the manager. You walk in and they're like, hey, Jen. It's like the TV show Cheers. Everybody knows your name. Like,
Yeah.
hi, hi. Like, we're on our mat getting ready for class, especially if it's a more of a flow or a vinyasa. Everybody's building their energy. Like, hey, how's it going? It's been a while. Like, oh, you were traveling for work? Tell me about that. Where did you
Oh,
go?
that's lovely.
It's really, really lovely. And it's, when people say my studio or this place or this situation is my church,
Hmm.
there's ritual, there's
Yeah.
community, there's compassion for each other, there's
Mm.
practice, whatever that practice is.
Yeah.
Mine happens to be yoga, which is mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah.
And so finding that studio has been an incredible part of my journey.
So this is something we've talked about in a previous episode. With your trauma, did you
Hmm.
find it hard to be still? Because
Oh
obviously
yeah,
with yoga, you're still and you're really meditating, aren't you, in all these poses? I'm not the world's
absolutely.
best yoga person, so I
I
will not
oh
attempt to
yeah.
demonstrate anything here. I
When
have
I
done
started
Kundalini. I
yoga,
did like that, and I need to get back to it. But
Kundalini is a great practice. Yeah.
any of them, I mean, it really is about being still, isn't it? Which a lot of people are quite scared of. Hence, they're
Hmm.
distracting themselves, or they're numbing, or they're got an addiction. So
Exactly. When I first started yoga, it was much more of a rigorous Ashtanga. I did a lot of Ashtanga kind of in the early
red,
2000s. And what's great about Ashtanga is it's physically challenging, but you
yeah,
have the same poses in the same order. So it's also predictable, which is
right,
really great for people that have anxiety and that have a hard time
yes,
staying still. Of course, everybody is still at the end of yoga in Shavasana. That's sometimes the
that's
hardest
true.
pose for some people. But through this journey, I've practiced more yin, more restorative. And at first, it
Mm,
was really hard for me. So I'm like, I have to hold this pose for 4 minutes? Are you kidding? 4 minutes is like
yeah,
a lifetime. And I've
and
actually,
be still
yeah, and be
and
still
silent as well, isn't it? There's
and
no
silent. Yeah. And sort of observing your thoughts and not being judgmental about, I just had this thought. Why did
oh,
I have that thought? A lot of people, I
I
think,
shouldn't be having
when
thoughts.
they're
I'm meant to be being quiet.
I meant to be quiet. Well, we can't really turn our thoughts off. That's, really difficult. But we
No.
can observe them in a way that
Mm,
says, oh, that's interesting. I'm
mm,
preparing for the party that's on Sunday, but I don't need to do that right now.
yeah.
So giving yourself permission to say, that's an exercise that I can do on Friday afternoon. Okay, check. let's come back to the breath, right? So
Mm,
that's a
that helps,
tremendous
doesn't it?
amount of
The
of
breathing,
practice.
coming back to the breathing. Yeah.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
find it, I mean, I think I've written about this. I've written so much stuff, I have no idea. But about the learning to meditate, I always said I'd never be able to do that. But and then it's when you initially start, of course, ego pops up, doesn't it? And it's going, you can't do this. Rah. And then just I've actually learned just to say, hey, can you just leave me be? Ego, can I just be here with soul meditating and
Yep.
enjoying the moment? And can you just go away for
Hmm.
like half an hour?
Yeah.
Just please leave me be. I'm safe. Be gone. Yeah,
Yes.
it's funny how people don't think that you can do that, and you just learn to do that. To just go,
Yeah.
I'll think about the
Yeah.
party later. Is that cool? Yeah, that's cool.
There's a
Okay.
there's a lot of really good practitioners and experts out
Mm,
there
yeah,
who can really provide a lot of tips and expertise on. Again, it's not shutting your mind off. Sharon Salzberg is probably, one of the best out there, and she talks a lot about noticing and redirecting, and I think she calls it beginning again.
yeah.
And that kind of gives you a little bit
I like
of
that.
a break
Oh, I like that.
from the judgment. It's like it's the
Yeah.
act of not turning your thoughts off. It's the act of listening,
Mm.
recognizing, observing, and then saying, okay, you don't have to think about this right now. Let's begin again.
Yeah.
And it's
Remind me
all
later.
about beginning again and coming back to your
Yeah.
breath and coming back
Oh,
to
I
your
love
breath.
that.
And that's the practice. So if you
Yeah.
meditate, not even for 30 minutes, let's say 5, and you begin again 15 times, that's
That's
the
okay.
practice. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and
the
it's
practice.
okay. It's learning that. So tell me more about the sound bowls.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I love them, but I want to know how you got into that. And I'm just going
I
to just
love them.
I know my dog, I think, is going mental behind me.
Uh
If
oh.
anyone's hearing random breathing,
I always look at my dog and I'm like, what you breathing so hard about? Sometimes I don't know what they're doing, but thankfully
he's
mine's
he's just
very, very quiet
falling
right
on the
now.
floor really randomly, like enjoying the energy of the conversation. That's what it is. He's like, oh, this
Yeah.
is fun.
Yes. Yes.
He's
This
definitely
is
an empath.
exciting. Mm-hmm. For
So, but I
sure.
want to know more about the bowls because obviously I have singing bowls, but I haven't actually. I tell a very funny story in the book about this. You'll appreciate this.
Mm-hmm.
Except I might have told you this before, but I'll tell you quickly. I was in a mall in northwest Houston, and there was
Oh,
somebody
okay.
who looked like she'd just stepped out of Woodstock playing a
Uh-huh.
singing bowl. And I went into the shop because I'd seen something else that looked really interesting. And as I went past, I'm like looking like a scruff. I'm like in shorts and, travel sandals. And I'm literally looking very normal. And
Uh-huh.
she said, oh, madam, which immediately makes me go, oh, God, I'm not that old. Um, have you heard of a singing bowl? And I went, yes, yes, I have too. And the look on her face, she was so shocked because she judged me by what I was wearing. And I was just like,
Yes.
oh, that's
Yeah.
seriously
Yeah.
funny.
Come on.
Normal people have singing bowls?
Yes. Yes. I have a full set of 7
Oh, I'm
bowls.
so jealous.
Hmm. Yeah, so I
All the
think it's,
notes.
I went to a place pre-COVID and then
Yeah.
they had to close their doors and then they did virtual sessions. And there's
Mm,
this wonderful woman in Austin. Her name is Tracy Sage King, I
yep.
believe it is her name. So I would highly recommend her. And I haven't gone
Yeah.
back to her studio because it's opened back up again in a different location since COVID. But she's phenomenal with sound and sound healing. And it's
Mm,
more than just the bowls, it's the singing bowls, it's the ocean drum. It's,
vibration.
and then she also has a huge drum, literally this
Ah,
big, right
yes.
up to her chest. And she would just, in the sound healing session, just beat the string. And you go into a different place. I don't know where you
Yeah.
go. You go back in time, you go forward in time, you go into a
Yeah.
different dimension. Sound is very powerful,
Yeah.
right? Because our bodies are like an instrument. We're full of
Yeah.
like 70, 75% water. This is why we're
Yeah.
so affected by the moon, right? So when
Vibration.
the vibrations happen, there's a
God.
lot of really powerful things that happen, including the vibrations in your brain, your
Yeah.
vagus nerve, right? All of these organs, your heart.
Mm.
So I just found that modality really interesting. I am by no means an expert. I'm a level 1 certified sound
Doesn't
healing
matter.
practitioner. Like, I don't know how many levels there are, but there's so much to learn in this
But it's
space. But
quite
I do,
intuitive, isn't it? When you're
it
playing,
is.
it's really you just follow the
You just,
sound and the
yeah, and I'm sure this weekend we'll take out my bowls. My dog will
Yeah.
probably sit. He's cool with the bowls. He doesn't have a problem with them.
Hmm.
Some dogs are sensitive with the bowls, and I'll just play,
You don't even want
and
to
it's
know what's
very
going on behind me.
relaxing.
He doesn't like them.
He's just on the bed relaxing.
I do want to know what he's doing. So normally he's fairly quiet through these, so I don't lock him out. But today he's just, joining in.
He's so cute. Oh my gosh.
He is. I think it's because he found a bone under there, like a, dog toy under the
Oh
sheepskin.
yeah.
So today he's just looking again,
He's
which means
doing
he's
what he's
eating it.
supposed to do. They're
Yeah,
supposed
he's
to sniff things
be
out.
inquisitive. But he's 11. He's normally calm.
Oh, my dog's almost 11 too. His birthday's right near Christmas.
Gorgeous age.
I can't believe he's a senior dog. Time flies.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's it's how fast the years go, unfortunately.
They
But I
do.
also feel it. I find it really interesting with dogs with the sound. Going back to the sound, how much they teach you about.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that with Lance, my first dog, about like not just the words we use, but the sound, the way we deliver the words, and how that
Yep.
could have him cowering or really happy. And I found that quite interesting. They teach us a lot,
Absolutely.
don't they? They
They
teach us a
do.
lot.
There are our little teachers. What's the saying? There's a word in Hawaiian, and I saw it on
Mm. Oh
Instagram, and
yes.
it doesn't mean you're the owner, you're the guardian, you're the protector, you're the companion.
Yes, I saw
And
that.
I
It's
I
beautiful.
I love dogs so much. We could have a whole 30-minute session about
We could
dogs.
totally do a podcast on dogs. I'm a bit concerned mine's about to hump the screen behind me. But anyway,
He's so
um,
cute. He's just having a good old time over there.
it's just that he just doesn't. So it just, oh no, this is not good. But anyway, so when you when you started, so did you have, like, what would you say to the listener? Like, did you have trepidation before you started healing, or was it like that email just miraculously landed in your inbox, which I love? Or was it,
Yes.
no, this is for me. I was drawn to it. I'm doing it. Go.
I would say the former because I was already feeling anxious and worried and
Mm,
overthinking. And
yeah.
I was in that headspace. But I was also feeling, honestly, Katrina, a little desperate at that point.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like something like, do I have a disease? Do I have an autoimmune disease? Like,
I got you.
what's
Yeah.
going on with me? And we could have a whole
Mhm.
discussion about autoimmune diseases and what triggers them and what's really happening. Because I tend to think that this goes part and parcel with childhood trauma. You probably have the genetics, things
Mhm.
clash, and then all of a sudden you're feeling sick, especially if you think about
Yeah.
things like fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue. What are those illnesses? What do they
Mm.
really mean? And I think doctors are baffled by those things.
Yeah.
But a lot of those symptoms I had. I was also, we didn't talk about this, exhausted, not just from sleeping, but like I hurt. Like your joints hurt, your
Oh,
muscles hurt. You're
wow.
like, am I dying? Like you get really
That's so good.
scared and desperate. And so
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this. I think it was like a US dollar, $250, Katrina. I was like, I'm going to try
Don't
this.
care.
What can it hurt? And
Yeah.
I did not believe going down this path was necessarily going to work, but I was like, well, let's just see what happens. And
Nothing else has worked.
it does. So I would say for
Yeah.
any listener that's like, this is speaking to me, you could Google DNRS or you could just Google rewiring therapy. There's
Yeah.
several practitioners out there. I follow some of these folks on Instagram and they're saying the things that I'm saying. And I'm like, you're speaking to me and it
Yeah.
really works. You have to commit yourself though. You have to commit
Yes.
yourself every single day to
Yeah.
your healing of your brain and your body, but it
Yeah.
works. And there were people in this program because you could sign up for group sessions and they would be facilitated by someone who's healed themselves.
Yeah.
And there were some guardrails in these sessions around. You can't go down the path of, I feel really bad or I had a bad day
Yeah.
yesterday. You have to keep it in a certain mindset, but also
Oh,
share
lovely.
what's working for you. How are you feeling better? Really focused on that path. There were people that I met, and this was all over Zoom, that had been bedbound. They were that sick.
Wow.
And they were like, I went on a 2 mile walk today. Like, it really is very amazing what we can do through this
Yeah.
kind of rewiring and how we can heal ourselves. And a lot of
Yeah.
the individuals talked about, we didn't go into a lot of the details of our trauma, but boundaries with family members.
Oh my God, boundaries. So important.
Right. And so they're like, I'm healing myself, but I still have to deal with these people that I have very unhealthy relationships with. So we would talk about, how do you build boundaries and
Yeah.
continue to be focused on yourself and your journey. So
Mm,
there, it was a really great experience. I probably
mm.
joined 4 or 5 different groups, and each group would last for 12 weeks, and we'd meet every
Oh,
single week.
so beautiful.
And it was, I literally saw people transform, where
Yeah.
in the first session, in the first week, they're in bed with their phone. They can't get out of bed, Katrina. They're that
Oh,
sick. And then by the 12th week, they're like on their phone, like walking. They're like, I'm walking right now. So it's
oh,
really
it's
true. I know it
amazing.
sounds a little wacky, but
No, it's not at all. No,
there's proof, and I hope I am proof, and I'm still
exactly.
working
You're
on it every
proof.
day.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's like you would find I have, as far as I'm concerned, healed, but I have a scar, so I can trigger. But
Yep.
my complex PTSD, and people would say that some people would say you can't, and it's like, no, you can. I
Yeah.
no longer feel the way I'm not on high alert all the time. I'm still
Yep.
very observant, but I'm not on high
Mm-hmm.
alert. I'm not stressed. I'm quite
Yeah.
calm the vast majority
Yeah.
of the time. Yes, of course, there'll be a few things because they'll take me back to childhood that will trigger, but I'm aware and they happen so infrequently. We're like once a
Yeah.
year kind of thing. So yes. So I know, but it's like you said, it's an everyday thing. And I think sometimes people just want a magic pill. And
Yeah.
it takes time. But actually, I still think your journey was shorter. My journey has been 12 years. I've been
Yeah.
doing different bits and pieces for 12 years. I mean, look,
Mm-hmm.
loads of it's out in the spiritual scale and past life. It's all coming out. It's all coming out. Not everyone
Oh.
wants to go that far, but that's what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been, yeah, I mean, even the initial was like probably 4 or so years.
Yeah.
You're undoing decades. So it's
Decades.
okay. I think yours
Yeah.
is amazingly,
Yeah.
amazingly. Well,
Yay.
I can see, I mean, from the person that I met 6 years ago and not having reconnected with you in all that time, which is shocking, really.
Yeah.
How is
Why?
6 years gone? Bloody 2020s. Like they're just the most
Exactly.
random decade so far, isn't it? But I can see such a monumental shift in you. So, I mean, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, is what, LinkedIn the easiest? If they're just,
LinkedIn's good. Yeah. Or maybe a DM on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook anymore. The 2016
oh,
election, I was like, I'm done. I
I'm
had to
done.
delete my
Can't do this
profile.
anymore. And I just thought you'd unfriended me. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was awful.
I'm referring
Let's not
obviously
talk about that.
to the U.S. presidential election, but yeah, it
Yeah,
caused
no.
a lot of damage for a lot of people. Speaking of fight,
Yes.
flight, or freeze, right? There's a lot
Mm.
of people,
In
especially
freeze.
in the country that I live, that are traumatized, and then they get re-traumatized by either politics or COVID, or so it's
Mm.
time for us to all unpack these things and just heal. I mean, I would
It is
love a collective
time.
healing. Like, that would just
Yeah,
be a beautiful thing.
wouldn't it? They
Yeah.
do exist. They do exist. We
Yeah.
just need more people to join it. And I do think people are shifting. They are going towards that fifth dimension energy and away from the third. But
Yep.
we have a fight in our hands. But I'm really hoping that the podcast, people will pass this on and they'll keep going, oh God, just listen to this. And we sort of start a bit of a movement. And then the book. I know the book is going to
Yes.
help so many people because
I
I'm also
can't wait for the book.
explaining. I'm explaining
Hmm.
stuff like you've beautifully explained your program. I'm explaining my stuff and trying to
Yeah.
put a bit of science in there for the skeptics as well. When I start talking
Yeah.
past lives, I'm like, here's some science to back that up.
Yep.
Just to demystify and hopefully to empower healers as well to be more vocal because some of us are hiding and we're not saying
Yeah.
we have these gifts, we've done this, I love this, come and join me, and so we're not necessarily even sharing just with our network. So hope so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think
we'll see. Time will
one point
tell.
I wanted to make was, you
Oh
talked
yeah,
about the
please.
science,
Yeah.
and having the science. There is a lot of science on this topic. There is a lot of data, but
Yeah.
also you need to have faith. And sometimes
Yes.
you're not going to have the science or all the answers, and you're going to go down a path, and you're going to ask yourself, I don't know what I'm doing. Just try it, and
Yeah.
something incredible might happen.
Might happen.
So we don't always have all the science, because all these wonderful scientists on this planet, which I have deep respect for, they don't all know either.
They don't.
Right?
They really don't.
They don't know. So,
And I
so
think
also
also
trust
when you
yourself.
exactly, and you're saying the funny thing is you mentioned the vagus nerve, it runs up, it runs gut, heart into your head, and we've all
Exactly.
been taught logic, and actually I think people that logic away are disconnected from their emotions, often from trauma. So it's actually if your gut's going, I'm going to try this. I'm just feeling drawn to it. Go with it. Like your gut and your heart are
Yes.
saying this is a safe path for you. Trust it. Because especially
Hmm.
soul. I mean, it's so quiet, isn't it? Your heart's so quiet. It's not that loud voice up here. It's this quiet one going, try this. Just I put an email in
Exactly.
your inbox to share this with you. Off you go.
Hmm.
You know.
Hmm.
So amazing. What a conversation. Thank you again so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for tuning in to Beyond the Damage of Words. How brave, how vulnerable, all to inspire listeners like you to take a step or inspire others to take a step. Imagine what healing we could create if we normalize this conversation. So please pass this on and of course subscribe so we can do just that. Until next time, thank you.